You've probably heard it 1,000 times. She'll chase you once you stop chasing her. It's one of those simple rules of dating that sounds almost too good to be true. You've probably tried it yourself, pulling back, waiting for her to come to you. But here's the truth most men don't realize. It's not that simple. What if I told you that the real reason women chase isn't because you stop chasing, but because they see something in you that demands respect and curiosity? It's a psychological dynamic you might be missing. Most men think attraction is about constant pursuit, but it's about balance, about emotional control, independence, and presence. In this video, we're going to break down why your chase could be the exact thing pushing her away and how to shift your approach to turn the tables. Get ready to uncover the deeper, more powerful truths behind female attraction that no one talks about. Number 1, the psychology behind female attraction. When it comes to understanding female attraction, most men get stuck in surface-level thinking. If I just show her how much I want her, she'll want me back. On the surface, it seems logical, right? The more attention, affection, or validation you give her, the more likely she'll feel the same. But here's where things get tricky. Attraction for women is never just about pursuit. It's about what's happening beneath the surface. For women, attraction is a psychological game of balancing emotional need and intellectual challenge. You can give her flowers, plan romantic dates, send thoughtful texts all day long, but unless you understand the deeper mechanics, it's going to feel empty. Attraction isn't just about how you treat her, it's about how she perceives you, how you make her feel when you're around. Let's dive into this. When a woman is genuinely attracted to a man, it's usually because he triggers something deep inside her, something that goes beyond looks, status, or material gain. It taps into psychological triggers like emotional security and challenge. Think about this. If she sees you as too easy, too predictable, it can quickly turn her off. Women don't want to feel like they figured you out within the first few dates. She's seeking something more, something that holds her attention beyond your words. She wants to feel that you're not emotionally dependent on her, that you're not just after her for validation. This is why emotional detachment, mystery, and self-sufficiency are critical for attracting women. Now let's flip that on its head. Most men think if they show a woman how much they care, she'll become attracted. But here's the hard truth. Women may appreciate affection, but they are not wired to chase validation or affection from someone who is too easily accessible. If you give her everything she wants too soon, without her having to work for it emotionally, she's going to lose interest fast. Here's the key. Attraction thrives on challenge. Not the kind of challenge where you play games or disappear for days at a time, but a more subtle one. The challenge of your emotional availability. When you hold back just enough, when you don't give her everything at once, you create a magnetic force. The key here is that she's not only attracted to the idea of you, but to your ability to keep her intrigued. When you allow her to earn your attention and respect, it triggers a powerful emotional response. She begins to wonder, what is it about him that makes him so different? The key takeaway? Attraction is driven by emotional challenge and the emotional space you create. You don't have to constantly chase, you simply need to build intrigue and self-sufficiency. You need to show her you're emotionally secure, but also someone who holds his ground, someone who is always just out of reach, keeping her coming back for more. So next time you wonder why she's not chasing you back, don't jump to conclusions. Instead, ask yourself, am I emotionally too available? Am I showing her my value too early? Number 2, the paradox of desire versus security. When it comes to attraction, most men focus on one thing, desire. They believe that if they can ignite that spark, if they can make her feel a deep, uncontrollable desire for them, everything else will fall into place. But what if I told you that desire is only half the story? In reality, women crave something much deeper than just the intensity of a spark. What they need, and what truly sustains attraction, is security. This is the paradox that confuses most men. Women are drawn to the excitement of attraction, but they're equally driven by the stability of security. At first glance, it seems like opposites. One feels exciting, wild, and unpredictable, while the other feels grounded, calm, and safe. But both are essential. In fact, A woman's attraction to a man can rise and fall based on the balance between these two forces. Let's break this down. Desire is the emotional rush, the butterflies in her stomach, the yearning, the thrill of anticipation. When a woman experiences desire, it's intense. It gets her heart racing. It makes her feel alive, full of energy. Desire is what draws her in initially. It's that magnetic pull that can keep her coming back, just wanting to know more. But, and this is crucial, desire alone is not enough. The problem arises when men think that keeping things exciting and unpredictable is the key to long-term attraction. They think if they always keep her guessing, keep her in a state of longing, she'll never stop wanting them. But eventually, this unpredictability turns into instability, and instability breeds anxiety. Now, security enters the picture. Security is what stabilizes the emotional connection. It's what builds trust. It's the feeling that when she's with you, she's emotionally safe. A woman needs to know that you're not going to disappear the moment she lets her guard down. She needs to feel like you're emotionally solid, grounded, and dependable. She craves a partner who can offer her that emotional stability, someone who can provide calmness in the face of emotional chaos. Think about it like this. Desire is the fire, security is the anchor. Without the anchor, the fire will eventually burn out. But without the fire, the anchor becomes weighty and stagnant. When both forces are in balance, that's when true attraction happens. So what does this mean for you in practical terms? 1. Don't be afraid to let her see the real you. Men often think they have to play a role, constantly chase excitement, and keep things mysterious to keep a woman interested. But here's the thing. If you're always playing games, she'll never feel emotionally safe with you. Instead, show her that you're someone who can offer emotional consistency. Let her see your vulnerabilities, but don't be overly dependent or needy. 2. Stop focusing solely on excitement. Sure, spontaneous moments, surprises, and adventure are important, but they should never come at the expense of emotional stability. If you constantly show up with a whirlwind of passion but no emotional grounding, she'll eventually feel like she's on a roller coaster. And no one wants to ride a roller coaster forever. Eventually, they want something more stable. 3. Be the calm in her storm. There are moments in every relationship when things get messy, when emotions are high, when life throws challenges your way. In these moments, the man who can remain calm, composed, and emotionally stable is the one who will stand out. Women are drawn to men who can stay grounded in the chaos. It makes them feel secure, and in turn, increases their emotional investment in the relationship. It's easy to get caught up in the belief that attraction is about keeping things exciting all the time, but desire without security is like a fire burning out of control. It feels great in the moment, but it can be overwhelming and unsustainable. On the flip side, security without desire becomes dull and uninspiring. Women need both, the rush of excitement mixed with the comfort of knowing you're someone they can rely on emotionally. So next time you're wondering why she's not chasing you back, ask yourself, are you giving her the emotional security she craves, or are you stuck in the cycle of always trying to be the thrill she can't resist? Number 3, the subtle power of emotional detachment. Have you ever wondered why some men seem to have an almost magnetic pull over women, even though they don't seem to try that hard? It's not because they're playing games or being distant just to keep her intrigued. It's because they've mastered the art of emotional detachment. And this isn't about coldness or indifference. It's about emotional independence. Here's the truth. Women are attracted to men who can show emotional control. Men who are emotionally detached are often seen as more self-assured, grounded, and intriguing. But here's where the confusion happens. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you're emotionally unavailable, and it definitely doesn't mean you don't care. It means you're not emotionally dependent on her for validation or attention. Think about it this way. When a man is emotionally too available, it creates a sense of imbalance. Women feel the pressure. The dynamic shifts from attraction to obligation. The more you need her emotionally, the less she feels the need to step up and engage with you. The reason? Emotional neediness signals weakness. And in the realm of attraction, weakness is rarely a turn-on. But when a man is emotionally detached, he exudes self-sufficiency. He doesn't need her to feel complete. He's already whole. This creates a paradox. The more emotionally self-sufficient you become, the more you actually draw her in. Women don't want a man who is so available that she can predict his every move. They want to feel like they have to earn his attention, his time, his respect. Imagine this. You're with a woman and she sees that you're emotionally stable. You're not constantly reaching out. You're not demanding her attention, and you're not trying to win her approval. Instead, you have your own life, your own interests, and your own emotional world. You're a man who brings value to the relationship, not someone who desperately needs it. This creates a powerful dynamic. She's drawn to you not because you're constantly chasing her, but because she senses your emotional depth and strength. Now, here's where things get interesting. Emotional detachment isn't just about giving her space or playing hard to get. It's about showing her that you have control over your emotions, that you're not governed by the highs and lows of attraction. Women find emotional control incredibly attractive because it signals confidence and maturity. Take the following example. Imagine a woman is testing you. Maybe she's being a bit distant, or she's asking for more commitment than you're ready to give. A man who reacts with emotional intensity, who chases, who gets upset, or who over-explains himself will only push her away. But a man who responds with calm confidence, someone who maintains his emotional center, who doesn't give in to her emotional tests, will actually gain her respect. He demonstrates that he's not easily rattled by her tests or emotional games, and that in turn makes her feel both safe and intrigued. This doesn't mean you shouldn't be vulnerable or emotionally available when the moment calls for it. It means you should maintain control over your emotional responses. When you don't need her validation, when you can stay grounded regardless of the emotional ups and downs of the relationship, you create a space where attraction can truly flourish. Think about this contrast. If a man is always reactive to a woman's emotional energy, constantly adjusting his behavior to suit her moods, he appears unstable, even desperate. But if he is emotionally detached, in the sense that he is stable and consistent in his behavior, she sees him as someone who can handle the emotional roller coaster of a relationship. It's this emotional steadiness that makes him stand out. Emotionally detached men aren't playing games. They're simply refusing to let their emotions dictate their actions. They have boundaries, and these boundaries don't just apply to other people, but to themselves as well. They don't allow external circumstances, like her behavior, to throw them off-center. This emotional independence is incredibly attractive because it signals that he is someone who can provide stability in the chaos. Here's a key point. The more emotionally available you are, the less you give her a reason to value your attention. But the more emotionally detached you become, the more your presence becomes a rare and valuable commodity. So, how do you practice emotional detachment in a healthy way? First, stop overinvesting too quickly. Don't let your emotions dictate how you interact with her. Stay calm and grounded. Let her come to you for validation, rather than constantly seeking it from her. Build your own emotional world, and make sure you're not leaning on her to complete it. Show her that you're fine with or without her attention. That, right there, is the magic of emotional detachment. And it's what truly makes women feel emotionally drawn to you. Number 4, the danger of overchasing. Here's the problem most men don't realize. Chasing her too hard might actually be pushing her away. It's counterintuitive, right? After all, the common advice is often, pursue her until she's convinced you're the one. But here's the truth. Excessive chasing can make you appear desperate, and desperation is rarely attractive. Let's break it down. When you constantly chase a woman, whether it's through texts, calls, or always being available, you're essentially telling her that you need her to feel validated. This sends a message that you have no sense of emotional independence. You're not pursuing her because you're genuinely interested. You're pursuing her because you need her approval. And that's a huge turnoff. Think of it this way. Attraction is not just about pursuing someone, it's about creating a dynamic where the chase feels like a healthy, mutual exchange of energy. If you're the one always giving and chasing, but she's doing very little in return, it creates an imbalance. Women want to feel like they have to work for your attention, just as much as you want to feel like you've earned hers. But when you're always chasing, you're doing all the work, and that's when the attraction starts to fade. The more you chase, the more you reveal your insecurities and emotional dependence. Women are naturally attracted to men who exude confidence, who can stand on their own 2 feet, and who are willing to walk away if things aren't right. When you chase too hard, you rob her of the opportunity to miss you, and that's a crucial element in creating lasting attraction. Think about it. When you make yourself too available, you remove all the mystery. You stop being someone she has to wonder about. You go from being an intriguing presence to someone she can always count on, no matter what. And while that sounds comforting, it doesn't ignite the spark of attraction. Instead, it can lead her to take you for granted. Now, don't get me wrong. Showing interest is important. It's not about playing hard to get to the extreme. It's about finding a balance between pursuing her and giving her space. The key here is to pace yourself and not overextend emotionally. You need to build tension, let the relationship breathe, and leave her wanting more. That's when she'll start chasing you back. This isn't about disappearing for days or acting aloof. It's about cultivating a sense of emotional self-sufficiency. The more you pull back just enough, the more you create curiosity. And curiosity breeds attraction. But if you're constantly chasing her, whether through texts or physical presence, you remove that curiosity and replace it with complacency. For example, let's say you've been texting her nonstop, checking in, making plans, constantly filling her emotional needs. At some point, she might stop replying as quickly or seem disinterested. The reason? She's not being challenged anymore. She's lost that sense of mystery. If you don't give her room to come to you and miss you, she'll stop feeling that initial spark. The key takeaway here? Attraction thrives on mystery, challenge, and balance. If you chase too hard, you risk losing her interest. So next time you feel the urge to text her or make yourself available, remember, let her come to you. Make her feel like she's pursuing you just as much as you're pursuing her. And when you strike that balance, you'll see the dynamics shift in your favor. Number 5, how women test you and why you should pass. If you've been in a relationship or even just casually dating, you've probably experienced this. She seems to test your limits, your commitment, or your emotional resilience, but it feels like an emotional roller coaster. 1 minute, things are perfect, and the next, she's pulling back or pushing boundaries. So what's going on? Why is she testing you? And how can you pass these tests with confidence? First, let's get something straight. These tests are not about manipulation, they're about something much deeper. Women are wired to seek stability, emotional security, and long-term compatibility in a partner. The tests are a subconscious way for her to assess whether you can handle the emotional ups and downs that naturally come with relationships. It's not that she's trying to make your life harder, it's that she's trying to see if you're the kind of man who can stay calm, grounded, and emotionally available when the going gets tough. Why does this matter? Because women need to know that the man they invest in is someone who can handle pressure without breaking down or reacting impulsively. If you're constantly reacting to her tests or allowing her emotional behavior to dictate how you feel or behave, you're essentially giving away your power. But if you can stay calm and emotionally grounded, you'll pass these tests without even realizing it. Let's break down a few examples of common tests women run. 1. The distance test. She pulls back emotionally or physically to see if you'll chase her. This might look like a delayed response to your texts, a sudden coldness, or a lack of interest. What she's really doing is checking to see if you're too needy or clingy, or if you'll respect her space. The key here is to give her that space without overreacting. Don't chase after her. Instead, continue living your life with confidence. Let her see that you're not emotionally dependent on her to feel complete. 2. The commitment test. She might push for commitment or make subtle comments about your future together, even if you've only been seeing each other for a short time. This is often a way for her to gauge your seriousness and emotional stability. How you respond here is crucial. If you overcommit or give in to her pressure too soon, it can come across as desperation. But if you stay grounded and communicate your boundaries confidently, without rushing into anything, you'll pass the test with flying colors. 3. The jealousy test. Sometimes she'll flirt with other people or act like she's interested in someone else, just to see how you'll react. It's not that she's trying to make you jealous on purpose. She wants to see if you're secure enough in yourself to handle the situation calmly. The best way to pass this test? Stay composed. Don't make a scene or get overly emotional. Show her that you're secure in your value and that her attention alone isn't the sole thing that defines your worth. 4. The vulnerability test. She might open up about something personal or share an emotional experience, looking for your response. This test is about your emotional availability. If you respond with empathy and emotional maturity, you'll show her that you're someone who can provide emotional support. However, if you shut down or respond coldly, you'll fail this test and lose her trust. Passing these tests isn't about perfection. It's about demonstrating emotional resilience and maturity. If you can maintain your boundaries, stay emotionally steady, and handle her tests with confidence, you'll show her that you're the type of man she can rely on. This is one of the keys to deepening the attraction. Women don't want to feel like they're in charge of the emotional dynamic. They want a partner who can lead and provide that stability, even when emotions run high. Think of it this way: every time she tests you, it's an opportunity to prove your worth as a stable, emotionally intelligent man. If you pass these tests, the attraction only deepens. But if you fail by overreacting, becoming insecure, or losing control, you risk losing her interest and trust. The next time you sense a test, stay calm, stay grounded, and stay true to who you are. It's not about playing a game. It's about showing that you're a man who can handle challenges with grace. Number 6. The impact of self-respect on attraction. Self-respect is one of the most powerful forces in the world of attraction, yet it's often overlooked or misunderstood. The way you treat yourself sets the standard for how others will treat you, especially women. If you don't respect yourself, you can't expect anyone else to. This principle is not just about showing confidence or carrying yourself with pride. It's about knowing your worth and not settling for less than you deserve. Think about it like this. When you have self-respect, you don't chase validation from others because you're already secure in your own value. Women are naturally drawn to men who understand their worth and won't tolerate disrespect, manipulation, or emotional games. This doesn't mean you have to be arrogant or dismissive. Rather, it's about setting boundaries and sticking to them. Men who lack self-respect often come off as desperate, constantly seeking approval, overextending themselves, and becoming emotionally dependent on the validation of others. When a woman senses this, it's a huge turnoff. Why? Because it signals weakness. Desperation creates a dynamic of power imbalance, where the man becomes emotionally reliant on the woman's attention or affection. This imbalance is unattractive because it feels like a form of emotional neediness, something that doesn't align with healthy, sustainable attraction. On the flip side, when you carry yourself with self-respect, you create a space where women feel they need to earn your attention. You don't settle for disrespect, and you don't accept anything less than genuine interest and investment from the people in your life. When a woman sees that you have boundaries, when she knows she can't just walk all over you, she's more likely to respect you and want to be with you. Imagine this scenario. You're dating a woman, and she begins to test your limits. Maybe she's asking for too much too soon, or she's not valuing your time. A man with self-respect will calmly but firmly set boundaries without getting emotional or reactive. He'll say something like, "I'm not comfortable with that," or "I'm not in a place where I can give you that right now." He doesn't argue, beg, or apologize for having standards. He simply communicates his needs with confidence and respect for both himself and her. In essence, self-respect is a silent but powerful magnet. It draws women toward you not because you demand attention, but because you present yourself as someone who is emotionally grounded, self-sufficient, and worthy of respect. The more you respect yourself, the more others will respect you, and this is what fosters deep, lasting attraction. Number 7. How to respond to her without overreacting. Let's face it, most men make the mistake of overreacting when they feel emotionally triggered. Maybe she's distant, or maybe she drops a comment that throws you off. Instantly, your mind races. You want to fix things, make her feel better, or demand an explanation. But here's the secret. How you respond in these moments defines the dynamic between you. Emotional reactivity is one of the biggest turnoffs in attraction. When you overreact, whether it's through anger, desperation, or emotional flooding, you communicate that you're not in control of yourself. And that's not a trait women find attractive. Women want a partner who can stay calm, composed, and collected, even when emotions are running high. In the heat of the moment, your ability to stay grounded is the thing that will keep her coming back for more. Let's break down why emotional reactivity works against you and how you can shift to a more balanced, attractive response. Why overreaction pushes her away. It all comes down to emotional control. When you overreact, you create a dynamic where she feels like she has the emotional upper hand. It's as though her behavior is controlling your emotional state. And women, on some level, know this. They want a partner who's grounded, not someone whose mood swings based on their behavior. For example, imagine she pulls back for a day or two, leaving you wondering what's going on. You might start thinking, what did I do wrong? Why isn't she texting me back? Maybe I need to text her more, make sure she's okay. But when you send that text or call, you're revealing that you're emotionally dependent on her response. You're letting her know that her absence triggers a sense of emotional instability in you. And trust me, this is not the type of man women are attracted to. But when you don't overreact, when you stay emotionally composed, it's a whole different story. You create emotional space for her to come to you when she's ready. And this sparks curiosity and respect. How to respond with emotional control. Here's the game changer. Instead of reacting impulsively, take a moment to process what's really going on. This means stepping back and checking in with yourself before you send that message or act out of frustration. When you stay calm and grounded, you don't give in to the emotional chaos around you. You create the space for her to make the next move, and most importantly, you stay in control of the dynamic. Here's an example. Let's say she texts you something vague like, I'm not sure about where this is going right now. Your first instinct might be to dive into a flurry of texts, over-explaining yourself, trying to convince her you're the right choice. But if you do that, you'll create a sense of pressure. She'll feel like you're reacting out of fear, which instantly lowers her attraction. Instead, you could respond with a calm, confident message like this. I understand. If you need some space or time to think things through, I'm good with that. Let me know when you're ready to talk. This response doesn't beg or plead. It doesn't show desperation. It shows that you're emotionally mature enough to give her the space she needs without freaking out. It also sets a boundary that you won't be controlled by her emotional push-pull. Taking the high road. In these moments, it's essential to take the high road. Women often test emotional boundaries, whether through silence, distance, or confusion, and how you handle those tests speaks volumes about your emotional maturity. If you react by getting anxious, upset, or trying to win her approval, you're showing her that your emotional state is easily swayed by her actions. On the flip side, when you take the high road, you demonstrate that you're comfortable with her being independent and with the idea that things might not always go perfectly. You're not emotionally invested in controlling her feelings, and that's what makes you more attractive. It's about showing emotional sovereignty. When you remain in control of your emotional reactions, you subtly communicate that you don't need her to be happy. You are content and stable, regardless of what's happening between you. The power of silence and space. A powerful way to respond without overreacting is by leveraging the power of silence and space. Too often, men feel the need to fill every gap with words. If she's distant, they'll text her to check in. If she's upset, they'll apologize or try to fix it right away. But sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all. Silence doesn't mean ignoring her. It means giving her the space to come to you when she's ready. By stepping back emotionally, you show that you're secure in who you are and that you don't need her to validate your worth. For example, let's say you've had an argument and she's being cold or distant. Instead of flooding her with texts or calls, give her space. Let her come to you when she's ready. This shows that you're not emotionally unstable or overly dependent on her attention. You're secure enough in yourself to be comfortable with silence. Key takeaways. In conclusion, the key to maintaining attraction isn't in overreacting or chasing answers every time something feels off. It's about emotional composure, maintaining your emotional center even when things feel uncertain. When you give her space, show that you're emotionally steady, and refrain from reacting impulsively, you'll automatically increase your value and attract her in a much deeper way. Remember, emotional control is a silent force that creates respect, curiosity, and lasting attraction. Number 8, deepening the connection. Attraction is powerful, but it's not the end of the story. What happens once the initial spark has been ignited? How do you move beyond mere interest and build something more meaningful, a deep emotional connection that lasts? The truth is, attraction alone is often fleeting. What keeps her invested is the emotional bond you build over time. Building a deeper connection isn't just about spending more time together, it's about learning how to connect on a deeper, more emotional level. It's about creating trust, vulnerability, and shared experiences that strengthen the bond between you both. But how do you create that depth, especially when you're so caught up in the day-to-day dynamics of attraction? It all begins with emotional presence. The power of emotional availability. Emotional availability is one of the most underrated components of attraction. Early on, the focus is often on physical attraction, chemistry, and excitement. But once those initial sparks settle, it's the emotional connection that sustains the relationship. When you're emotionally available, you're showing up as your authentic self, without masks or emotional walls. This doesn't mean being vulnerable to the point of emotional dependency, but rather being comfortable enough to share your thoughts, fears, and feelings with her. Emotional vulnerability is an essential part of deepening the connection because it allows her to see the real you, not just the person you think you should be to win her over. However, emotional availability requires trust, and that trust is built over time through consistent actions. It's not just about saying the right things, it's about demonstrating your emotional depth through your behavior. When you are emotionally present, she feels it. She senses your openness and begins to mirror that energy. This is where true intimacy begins to develop, shared vulnerability and authenticity. Vulnerability is not weakness. In fact, it's one of the most powerful ways to create a lasting emotional bond. But here's the catch: vulnerability is reciprocal. If you open up to her but don't create the space for her to be vulnerable with you, you create an imbalance. She needs to feel that she can be her authentic self around you, just as much as you can with her. Take this scenario. You're out together and you start to share something personal, a challenge at work, or a past struggle that shaped who you are. The key isn't just what you share, but how you share it. If you're truly vulnerable, not just speaking for effect, she will pick up on that emotional honesty. But this moment is also an invitation for her to share her own experiences. Real connection comes when both people feel emotionally safe enough to be raw and real. This might not happen in the first few weeks of dating, but once you begin to create these moments of mutual vulnerability, the connection deepens exponentially. Creating emotional depth through shared experiences. Another powerful way to deepen the emotional connection is through shared experiences. Whether it's traveling together, dealing with a tough situation, or going through something emotionally challenging, these experiences create memories that forge an emotional bond. Why is this important? Shared experiences give you common ground, something that only the two of you share. These moments help you build a narrative of the relationship, and the more of these emotional experiences you have, the stronger the connection becomes. For example, let's say you and she both go through a stressful week at work and decide to lean on each other for support. That shared experience will create a unique bond between you two, one that only the two of you can understand. The more you share these moments, the more your emotional bond will strengthen. The role of consistency. At the heart of all of this is consistency. It's not enough to have a deep conversation one night or to be emotionally available one day and then pull away the next. Consistency in your emotional presence and actions is what builds the foundation of a lasting connection. This is where many men falter. They might be emotionally available for a few days, but then they retreat, becoming distant or emotionally unavailable when things get tough. Women sense inconsistency and it can lead to anxiety and confusion, undermining the connection. To deepen the connection, you must show up consistently, emotionally, physically, and mentally. Emotional support and growth. Another crucial aspect of deepening the emotional connection is offering emotional support. A woman wants to feel like her partner is someone she can rely on, especially during tough times. Being there for her emotionally, showing empathy, and offering guidance when needed creates a sense of trust and safety. But it's not just about being there when things are bad, it's about encouraging her growth and supporting her in pursuing her passions, dreams, and goals. You want her to feel like you're not only her partner, but also her greatest supporter, someone who genuinely wants her to succeed. This support fosters a deeper sense of connection and loyalty, as she'll see you as a reliable and safe partner who's emotionally mature enough to navigate life's ups and downs together. Key takeaways. To sum it up, deepening the connection is about showing emotional availability, consistency, and vulnerability. It's about creating a space where both partners can be their true selves, where trust is built through shared experiences and mutual respect. Attraction might bring you together, but it's the emotional bond you build that keeps you together. When you demonstrate emotional presence and authenticity, you create a lasting connection that transcends surface-level attraction. You don't just want her to be attracted to you, you want her to feel like you're someone she can emotionally rely on, day in and day out. That's what transforms attraction into something deeper, something real. Number 9, conclusion and key takeaways. At the end of the day, understanding female psychology and attraction isn't about playing games or following scripted rules. It's about creating a dynamic where both you and she can grow emotionally, build trust, and share a genuine connection. Attraction, while important, is just the beginning of something much deeper. A relationship that thrives on mutual respect, emotional security, and understanding. You've learned that emotional detachment doesn't mean shutting down. It means maintaining your emotional sovereignty and not relying on her for validation. You've discovered that overchasing can undermine attraction and how to recognize and handle the emotional tests she might throw your way. You've seen that self-respect is a silent force. When you respect yourself, others will follow suit. And perhaps most importantly, you now know that responding with emotional control, not overreacting to her actions, can keep her interested and invested in you. The real secret to keeping her drawn to you? Emotional stability, self-respect, and the willingness to show up authentically. By maintaining these principles, you'll not only keep her attention, but also build a bond that is grounded in trust and shared vulnerability. Now, the next step is in your hands. Take these insights, integrate them into your own life, and watch how your interactions transform. You're not just aiming for attraction, you're building something deeper, something that lasts.